Welcome back. It is Thursday, April 27th in the MLB, and my three favorite picks are on the way. I'm Logan from Calling Our Shot, and man, we have a special guest. Normally our special guest is Austin on this channel, but I like this special guest a whole lot more. Get those brooms out, baby. We finally got that 3-0 sweep that we really desperately needed and deserved, especially after getting hosed in that Phillies pitcher switch yesterday. So let's do a quick recap of our picks. We had the Padres on the money line, Phillies on the money line, and the no-run first inning in the Atlanta Braves game. This is why baseball is a 9-inning game. I tell you it all the time, guys. Never count a bet over till it's over. When the Phillies went down 5-2 in that game, so many of you guys were chirping, just losing the faith. But that's why baseball is 9 innings. I just have to remind this to you. It's a very long season. If you're going to get bent out of shape over a 5-2 deficit, it's going to be a really long season for you. So just keep the faith a little bit, and just a reminder that baseball isn't over till it's over. But you know what? We're going to ride that momentum today. But before we get into the picks, I do have a quick announcement for our friends in Ontario. PointsBet is now live. So hopefully, you guys can use that book. There's a link in this video description for that PointsBet link that I'm talking about. So I'll shout out all you people in Canada. Hopefully you can make use of that and win some money today on the picks, because that's really what we're doing. And speaking of our picks, let's jump right into our first pick. We're going to the Cardinals versus Giants game, and I'm taking the Cardinals versus Giants under 4.5 total runs in the first 5 innings. Plus 100 odds on DraftKings is your best value on this one. Now, look, on surface level, you're going to see both these pitchers' ERAs, and you're going to say, Logan, you crazy, man? This is over central. Well, you know what? I'll die on the hill that these two starting pitchers are better than their early season numbers. Because, look, just looking at surface level, I can remember, I'm old enough to remember last year, and the over under in this game would have been like 7.5, but it's a higher because this is a new year and they're not out of the gate very hot. But so far, this first 5 under is 2-1 in this series. And you know what? With an early start time in San Francisco, there could be a slow start to this one. I've seen it many times. You start these baseball games early. Takes a few innings for the bats to sort of heat up and get into the flow of it. And you know what? These are humans at the end of the day. I just could see some sleepy bats, right? Logan Webb is scheduled to start for the Giants, right? 4.4 ERA and a 1.14 WHIP. A little bit shaky numbers for Webb at times this year. The WHIP though is low enough to where I think the ERA is actually going to drop as the season goes on and as Webb gets more starts. Because you know what? If his WHIP was like 1.5, I wouldn't be so sure about it. But the fact that it's just a little bit a tick above 1 and WHIP, but guys, stands for walks and hits per inning pitched, is a ratio. You want that number to be as low as possible because walks and hits for a pitcher, not really a good thing, right? Webb, in his most recent start, though, showed some encouragement. He turned it around versus the Mets. 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 8 strikeouts in that one. I really love to see the strikeout number high because, Webb needs to miss some bats every now and then. It feels like these two starting pitchers in this game, every time they get hit, it's just a scorching extra base hit. But you know what? I think these two pitchers are sort of rounding the corner and becoming, better as the year is going on, right? St. Louis, 15th in batting average, 16th in OPS on the road. They have a few hitters in there that sort of, strike fear into me, but not enough for me to completely stay away from it. I just don't think they're that consistent in offense. Look, their numbers are painfully average for a reason, right? Now, on the other side, we've got Miles Michaelis starting for the Cardinals, 7.46 ERA, 1.89 WHIP. See, that WHIP is high and that ERA is high, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat those numbers. Those numbers aren't good. But Miles Michaelis sort of turned it around in his last 2 starts, right? I needed to see some evidence of not just 5-6 earned run type games. His last 2 starts, 3 earned runs, 2 via the home run, didn't like that. 2 earned runs, no home runs allowed in the other start. So the earned runs are finally ticking down, but Miles Michaelis has a home run problem, right? And I always view home runs as one of those more fluky stats, right? Because, as easily as they come, they also go. Offenses that rely heavily on the home run also dry up a little bit. This Giants offense, they do have a lot of home runs. Yeah, man, if you told me they didn't hit a homer today, I'd say, yeah, that's baseball, right? You can't predict home runs, right? Miles Michaelis is missing location on a lot of these pitches, and that's a problem, in the MLB. But you know what? I could see him correcting that as the season goes on. Early in the starts, mislocations right into the seats, right? These are good hitters. But the Giants, 17th in batting average, 18th in OPS. I just mentioned the Cardinals are a painfully average offense. Kind of view the Giants the same way too, right? I just think this offense isn't all that great. I don't think either of these offenses are juggernauts enough to scare me away from picking this one. I think we're going to have a pitcher's duel through 5 innings in this one. Hopefully, this isn't one of those classic cases where the first 5 goes over and the full game goes under, and I picked the wrong bet. That's sometimes the dicey thing when you pick a first 5. But nonetheless, I really do like this one. I like the value I'm getting at plus 100 on DraftKings. So even odds on that one, I'll go ahead and take a shot on it. Now let's move on to our next pick. Another over-under of sorts, right? But it's a team total, and I'm taking the Mets team total over 4.5 in this one. Currently minus 114 odds on FanDuel is your best value. Now look, the Mets, I don't need to tell you anybody who's back in the Mets, but they stink, right? The Mets are in a desperate need of a get-right game. On their 4-game losing streak, the Mets have went under this team total in all 4. I see the trend being broken today against Trevor Williams, though, in the Nationals today. Look, these books set the team totals, high for a reason sometimes. Especially, my favorite thing to do is go to look at a team total and say, have they been hitting this number consistently? Is there a reason for the books to raise it? And there's no reason for the books to have raised this to 4.5, right? The Mets aren't hitting that consistently. The Mets, if you look at their home numbers, 28th in batting average, 25th in OPS at home. This is unrecognizable, especially for any of you guys who backed the Mets last year. But I believe the Mets are due some positive regression, on those stats particular today, because this offense is too talented to be this bad, right? I just don't think they're a 28th in batting average at home kind of team, right? They face Trevor Williams today. Now, Trevor Williams, you look at his stats, 3.38 ERA and 1.08 whip. Very, very, good numbers, right? There's nothing to really knock about Trevor Williams this year, but, I'm old enough to remember every version of Trevor Williams, and I've seen him pitch, and I know those higher, what I call meltdown performances are definitely lurking around the corner, right? I've seen this type of pitcher give up 4 or 5 earned runs in a start, and it hasn't happened yet, but I say yet, and I feel like the books sort of know that could be lurking, right? Williams doesn't get the swing and miss either, right? 4, 2, 4, and 3 strikeouts in his 4 starts this season. Nothing above 4 strikeouts. I just think that I really do think the Mets, who are a good team at putting the ball in play last year and getting those timely hits, I think with a low strikeout pitcher like Williams, they're going to have success against him today. They're just going to be able to get those base hit knocks, convert those runners in scoring position into runs. And then even when Williams comes out, Washington 9th in bullpen ERA. I've watched them enough to know that there are run opportunities late in this game, because that's just kind of how the Nationals bullpen works. I actually think they're a lot worse than 9th in bullpen ERA. A little bit of early season, liar numbers. I'm very curious on where they end, because I would put good money that it's past 20. But I really do like the Mets today. I think this is a bounce back spot for them. And I think they're definitely going to score some runs on Trevor Williams. So I do really like their team total over 4.5 in this one. We're going to take a stab on it. I think it's a worthy bet to make. But guys, you know what time it is. Get those flags in. Music run. Get those flags out. This is why we go to Sandy Nerfies, early and often. We should honestly pick them every time he starts. But today, we're going to a different one. We're going to the Orioles versus Tigers, and we're taking the no-run first inning in this one. Minus 113 odds on FanDuel is currently your best value in this one. Now, look, these two pitchers already matched up, and it resulted in a no-run first inning. So can we get a duplicate of that performance? Absolutely. I say yes. Now, Joey Wentz is starting for the Tigers. You look at his numbers, and you're like, oh, man, dude, shaky, right? He's actually better in no-run first innings than you expect, right? Wentz is 3-1 this season in Nerfies. You can't pick these pitchers that come out and just look like deer in headlights and just cannot find the zone in the first inning. Wentz is not shown to be that pitcher. He usually saves his meltdowns for later in the game. So I really do think he'll be able to get through this Orioles offense. Look, Orioles 26th in first inning runs. They've got some decent hitters up at the front, but they just don't always put it together. The Orioles are also one of those teams that like to score later in the game. So far in the season, hopefully we can continue that trend. Now, Kyle Gibson, take us home for the last 3 outs that we need. He's starting for the Orioles. Gibson, 3-2 on no-run first innings this season. I mean, he's decent, right? But really what he's facing is the Tigers, who are 30th in first inning runs, right? The Tigers are like actually statistically one of the worst first inning run teams probably I've ever seen. Like it just really is that bad. I think Kyle Gibson more than capable of getting some soft contact ground ball outs, because we know that's what sort of pitcher he is. Over under set to 8 in this one, right in the range that we normally like to pick this one. So at the end of the day, I actually just think these two pitchers are pretty mediocre, but these two offenses, aren't all that great, especially in the first thing. So it's definitely a worthy shot on this one. If you look at the NRFI slate today, I actually think there's a lot of good options. I don't think you can go wrong on several of the other ones, but that's up to you to decide. This is just the one I like for the value. I'm not picking anything crazy juiced in this one, but I really do think it stands a chance of cashing. Now let's do a quick recap of all three of our picks. We've got the Cardinals versus Giants first 5 under. We have the Mets team total over, and we have the Orioles versus Tigers no run first inning. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully we can continue our winning ways today. I feel really good about these bets. Let's string together a winning streak following our sweep. I'll be back as always tomorrow. See ya.